set for record. All right, a few things that they need to realize is that the eye is really well cushioned with lots of fat around it, and that the extrinsic muscles are these brown structures in here that you see. They're completely cut, but you really can see it very nicely if you look from the inside in here. There's the extrinsic muscles, the laterals, the obliques, the inferior and superior obliques. They're all within here. And they're all attached to the sclera. Sclera is the white part of the eye, which for the cow eye, you can really see it here. It's this white tissue that you see. Some of it is actually covered also with fat. But one thing that the student need to realize is that the sclera is essentially a continuation of the dura mater that covers the optic nerve. And there's the optic nerve right here. Okay? And you can see the dura mater is this really dense connective tissue that surrounds it. Right? And that's continuous with the sclera. The dura directly attaches to sclera. So the optic nerve, they need to realize what the optic nerve is all about, that it contains only sensory information that goes to the brain. Okay? So it's all afferent. Has nothing to do with the eye muscles. That's where the photoreceptors, essentially will connect to all these local cells in there and send the information via the ganglion cells through the optic nerve all the way to the thalamus. Okay, so I usually like to cut a little bit of all this fat so you can show the sclera what it's all about. Okay. Did any of you print my lab study guide, by the way? So
No,
I can see, so I make sure that I cover everything. Okay. So once you remove a bunch of this fat, you can really see nicely the extrinsic muscles that attach directly to the sclera. You see that? How they go directly into the sclera? These are the muscles that control the eye movement.
So are we doing a demo again, or are they going to be able to do this themselves?
They should be able to cut the eye themselves, and you should be able to well, you should show a demo first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
But there's enough for them, for each group to have their own eye?
Yeah, if you want to have like 4 groups, maybe there's plenty of eyes as far as I know, right?
Okay.
We have buckets of them.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so
Buckets of eyes. That's exactly, yeah.
yeah, buckets of cow eyes. Okay, one thing. All right, let me just cut that. Okay, that's all good now. I think that's really pretty nicely clean. Can I see that study guide? No, the written part. I see it. That one. I just lay it in front of me here, so I know that I'm talking about all those things here. All right. So they need to know about the fibrous layer. The fibrous layer was the sclera and the cornea. Sclera is made up of very dense connective tissue, and the students should know that the sclera's function is really to maintain the eye, the shape of the eye, okay, and also provide a place where the extrinsic muscles attach to the eyeball. And you can see that really nicely here. Cornea is slightly different than the sclera, in that the connective tissue here is very clear and allows for the light to go in. It's the very first place where the light will get diffracted in the cornea. And cornea has some fibrocytes, if you will, cells that produce this extracellular matrix that is very clear, but they're pretty far and few. And that's why the cornea, but you can talk a little bit about the cornea as far as how you do lens corrections, for example, and what happens in the cornea. Why is the cornea the place to do surgeries?
I'm sorry, you said the light is diffracted or refracted?
Did I say?
You said diffracted, and if that's correct.
I think diffracted. I'm always messing up the not diffracted. I'm pretty sure it's diffracted. You're making me really doubt myself, but.
No, I'm just trying to make sure I'm clear what it is.
Yeah. son, don't quote me on that one. I need to recheck
There you go,
myself.
Internet.
There.
Don't quote Zenny.
Yeah, do that on me. All right.
I'll look that up then.
Yeah, refracted.
Okay.
Okay, so, right, so the cornea is the only place where, for example, you can remove the cornea entirely and put an artificial one, and you wouldn't get any rejection because there aren't that many cells in there anyway
Okay.
to be rejected. Okay. All right. Now, this is all exterior. So this is the fibrous layer, and we're talking about sclera and the cornea.
Okay.
Then I would definitely cut the eye. Try to cut the eye sort of in one side of the optic nerve. There's the optic nerve right here.
Okay.
So I just kind of pick one side like that, and I just go smack in the middle. Right. So that was. So when you get to this spot in here, what I would suggest you do is.
Aqueous humor everywhere.
I know.
Vitreous.
Yeah, that's the vitreous and the aqueous humor, both of them in different size there. But obviously, there's probably no aqueous humor in there. It's just fixative. All right.
Okay.
So what the students need to realize first of all is that the eyes have two segments in here, and there's the anterior and the posterior segment. Okay. Anterior segment is from the cornea and all the way to the lens. Lens is like the border. And the posterior segment is anything behind the lens, all the vitreous humor in here. Vitreous humor is like jelly-like. This is what we're born with, right? The amount of the vitreous humor changes very little. It is clear. It allows light to scatter pretty nicely in there.
And that's this.
This is this gel-like, this protein-like. So this is the vitreous humor. This is the posterior segment. Anterior segment is.
And then is that an extension of the cornea? The white.
The what? Lens.
That's the lens. Oh, okay.
The globby thing?
Yeah.
The globby thing. This is the lens.
That's
yeah.
the lens. Oh, okay.
Okay, so there's the lens. All right, so let me just go through a few more things. Vascular layer is composed of the choroid, ciliary body, iris, and the pupil. All right, so iris and pupil always go together. Iris determines the size of the pupil. The pupil is the opening, as we all know, and pupil is where the iris border is, right here. This little flap there, that's the iris. And the pupil is the size of that opening.
Oh,
okay?
I see. Yeah.
And so the size of the pupil is determined by the iris shape. Now, for the choroid and the ciliary body, one thing that you have to realize that the choroid looks pretty much black. You see this black layer right here?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I'm going to lift it, part of it. And
Doesn't that help you like see at night or something, or makes its eye look shiny?
In lower animals.
all right.
That's
yeah.
part of the tapetum. Is that
Yeah.
what you're trying to say?
Whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Are you
Tutoring is next
Tutoring
door.
is next door.
Oh, it's next door.
Yeah.
So in
So there's the
nocturnal animals, it's reflective.
Okay.
Which
Like-
bit? I'm sorry.
I said in nocturnal animals, the tapetum is reflective.
Okay.
like the owl, so they have to maximize the light that they see. So they have like the structure right behind it.
Oh,
They
okay.
can reflect some of that light. So this is the vascular layer right there. It appears completely dark because the vascular layer, the choroid, is heavily pigmented, and it absorbs a lot of that light. The pigmented layer is also the one that absorbs a lot of that light that
Right.
essentially doesn't hit the photoreceptors. It doesn't let the light to scatter and bounce, in different places. So it's really good. So that's the choroid. Choroid is also heavily vascularized. That's the place where you get all the nutrient. The neural layer gets its nutrients and so on. So the vascularization is really on the choroid, right behind the eye there.
Okay.
Now the choroid is also continues. As you can see, it's dark, and it continues and all the way to the ciliary body. I'm sorry. The ciliary body is. I'm going to remove the. I think the best is to do is once you show the vitreous humor, to actually continue cutting.
Okay.
Okay, the eye until it's almost in half.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can remove some of that, at least in one side you should remove the best way you can the vitreous humor without taking the neural layer out. Okay,
I'm sorry, which bit is the neural layer?
I'll show you in a second.
Sounds good.
Okay. So I'm just gonna try to, okay, there you go. That's the neural layer right there. Okay, so the first thing is first. What I want you to show is where the ciliary body is. Ciliary body is
Okay.
the serrated, dark tissue right here.
Okay.
You see that little serration right there?
I do, yeah.
Right, and that's right in front of the iris. Iris is this flap right here.
Okay.
But right in front of that, that's the ciliary body. Ciliary body is the place where you have those suspensory ligaments that attach directly to the lens.
Okay.
Okay, and determine what the shape of the lens is. Usually, if the ligaments are loose, the lens will take its own shape and it will become a little more like a ball.
Okay.
If the ciliary body gets relaxed, it'll pull on those ligaments and it'll flatten out the lens.
I see.
So, but in other words, the students really should realize that the ciliary body is the place where you get the lens attached to.
Okay.
Okay? And it's also the border between the posterior segment and anterior segment.
Okay.
What about the neural layer? So in here, the neural layer is this fatty tissue that you see. You see this, like it looks kind of opaque in there, kind of white. You can actually lift that. You see, that's just like fatty tissue. That's the neural layer. Okay? That's the neural layer. That's where you actually have all the photoreceptors.
It's a little
See? So that's why, that's when you,
iridescent, yeah.
right, that's when, you know, like you get issues like retinal detachment and that kind of thing.
I see.
It's this neural layer that kind of detaches from the eyeball there, and it can cause all kinds of distortions, you know, in the, you know, how the photoreceptors pick up that information. Now, on this, you should be able to show to your students that there's an optic nerve right in the middle here. You see that? There's the optic nerve, so situate where the optic nerve is.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then you see this, like, spot in there, and that's where all the nerves are going and you know, like essentially wrapping in the inner walls of the
And
eye.
I'm hating myself because I cannot remember the name of it right now.
The
I'm sorry?
neural layer?
The
No, the macula? Is that what you're blind spot?
the blind
Oh,
spot.
the
yeah.
blind spot, where the optic nerve enters.
Yeah, and
The blind spot.
cannot remember the name of it.
The macula is around the fovea, right?
Right. So macula.
Fovea. That's what I'm trying to
Right.
think of. Okay.
You're thinking about the fovea.
Yeah.
All right. So the fovea is very different, right? So
Oh.
sometimes, well, the macula lutea is the one. The fovea is the center of it. So sometimes you can potentially see it, and I can see that there's a little pit in here on this side. Let me just cut it all the way. So
But this is a cow eye, right?
this is a cow eye.
You
Yeah.
wouldn't necessarily expect a fovea.
I think
Why
they
is that?
they have a
I
fovea.
thought they had a horizontal streak, or is that horses?
Horses do have a horizontal streak.
Yeah, which means they don't have a fovea.
Okay, well that's
Well, I
news
don't
to
know.
me then. Okay, then I need to check. I need to check mine. But okay, so yeah, so I'll have to check on the cow eye. That's a really good point. I didn't think about checking on that at all. But you know, like this one looks like there's a little pit in here, but don't quote me on that. Don't try to show macula lutea on the cow eye. I didn't try to do it last semester. I'm not going to try it this semester either.
Okay.
It's
But
easier just to get an image,
Yeah,
like a retinography.
right, there is
image.
on our models you can show they have a spot in there, just to
Okay.
give them a sense of how small the macula lutea is, and
Okay.
all right, it's just like a little dot there
Okay.
on a big eye. Okay, so if you lift the neural layer like that, this very immediate layer there, that's your pigmented layer.
Okay.
And so they should know what the function of the pigmented layer is, which I do actually have a little space in there. All right. And last time,
Okay.
if I remember correctly, I spent a lot of time around the iris, and then the students really understanding what a pupil is, and pupil size and how that changes.
Okay.
And the iris, make sure to point out what the iris is, and what the ciliary body is there, so they don't confuse the two.
Okay.
Make sure that they know what the pupil is and how the pupil size is related to the iris. I did not discuss with my students last time about anterior and posterior chambers. Okay.
Okay.
So, you know, within the anterior segment, you have an anterior chamber and a posterior chamber. I just wouldn't, you know, go to that length.
Okay.
Just understand that that's the anterior segment. The students should know where the aqueous humor is
Okay.
and where the vitreous humor is.
Okay.
So anterior segment, right?
Uh-huh.
Anything in front of the lens.
In front of the lens.
That's the aqueous humor.
Okay.
And that they should be able to know that that's what's responsible for eye pressures, right? That
Okay.
you go and measure at the optometrist.
Okay.
And vitreous humor is the one that you're born with, which is this gel-like structure.
And that's the posterior
That's the posterior segment.
Okay.
That's, you know, the vitreous humor is the one that contributes at least to having the neural layer stay intact and against the eyeball there.
Okay.
So you don't get retinal detachment, that kind of thing.
Okay.
One thing that students might ask you, which I doubt it, but some of that aqueous humor actually goes underneath the underneath this vitreous humor like that, and it bathes the neural layer.
Okay.
So that aqueous humor actually does bathe around there.
Okay.
But essentially, the aqueous humor will be recirculated back to the vascular system. There's some openings right in the cornea here, and that's where it'll drain back into the venous system.
I see.
Okay.
So
So and if they do plug, and the eye pressure goes high, you really have to be quick about that to do something about it, because you can get glaucoma, which is essentially, if the pressure is too high, then what you end up doing is the vitreous humor will actually, with a aqueous humor, that pressure will press on the neural layer, right, and it will cause distortions in vision, and it can actually kill the nerves.
Yeah.
And you become slowly blind, and people don't even realize that. That's why it's always important to measure that eye pressure. Okay?
yeah. I see. So iris pigmentation.
So cornea, you know, also then they're gonna, you know, they should understand. Macular lutea and fovea centralis, and you can do that through the model here.
Okay.
But they also should be able to define terms like refraction and lenses. So, you know, back to yours. I said diffraction. It is actually refraction.
Oh, okay.
Light refraction.
I wasn't saying you were wrong. I just wanted
It's
to get
just
mine
that
straight. That's all.
You know, yeah, it's my brain is not set today for the eyes, to talk about eyes. Refraction. I've repeated this 1,000 times, and I don't know why I said diffraction there. So refraction. So the first line of light refraction is the cornea. The second one is the lens that contributes to refraction.
Okay.
Right? And the lens shape is controlled by the ciliary body. So you have to, and they have to also understand what it means what accommodation means, which all has to do with the lens. Okay.
Okay.
If you're discussing accommodation at all, it has to do with the lens changing shape and either becoming flatter when you focus far away, or becoming rounder when you're focusing closer up. And then you want to talk about like old age vision and young, I'm sorry, not young, but like farsightedness, nearsightedness.
Right.
They really need to understand that.
Okay.
So, but describe those in terms of lens and the cornea.
Okay.
And they should have all these terms in their lab notebook.
Okay.
So they don't necessarily try to get all of the notes there. They'll have the notes in there, but
Okay.
so they really should practice on that.
Okay.
So you may want to make like a quiz for them if you want to on these terms specifically,
Okay.
and leave the rest of it to be done like on their own.
Okay.
All right, and I think that's all I have.
Okay. So
by the time you actually describe these, okay, accommodation, and you can actually have them do some of these vision, like nearsightedness, farsightedness vision type of thing. You know, by the time you get done with that, I mean, I think you'll easy spend the 2 hours
Yeah,
or so in class.
fair enough.
Okay.